The background for today's video is Coity Castle. I have been picked up that I don't describe where I'm videoing from. I do apologise. Sometimes I get so carried away in talking I forget to describe where I am. So yes, Coity Castle, near where I live. I've driven past it so many times and never been inside the walls. Well, today I have, and it was amazing. But I have found a little recreation area with a table in, and I'm going to go in there now, right beside this gorgeous old church, and film the rest of the video. Grounds of the church right behind me. Today is a Sunday, but I don't see any sign of church services going on. But anyway, back to the subject of today's vlog, and I wanted to talk about probably the most important lesson I have learned in the last 3 years of being retired. I retired at age 56, and in all honesty, the first 2 years of retirement were a lesson. Because of external circumstances, my own health scare, and then literally I retired September 2023. Within 3 months, my sister had been diagnosed with cancer, completely out of the blue. It was while she was on a yoga retreat on Gozo. She came home, she was really ill, she was diagnosed, and she died 2 years ago, this month, within a few days, 2 years ago. And I was able to look after her home, and I'm so pleased I was able to do that for her. At the same time, my mother's dementia was really becoming impossible to manage. And so a year ago, August 2025, my mother went to a care home, and I must say has settled a lot since, which has been a huge relief. And since she went in, it felt like a relief, but it was also signified the end of my marriage. I'd been living with my mother, and going back to the family home just didn't seem an option. We had both been unhappy, we'd both vocalised that, and fast forward a few months, the decision was made, we were going to separate. And I've been living at my mother's house ever since, and have been doing vlogs on retiring early, some financial things. I'm going to settle down here, sort the camera out better. Yes, I've been doing some vlogs on early retirement, my budget, and talking about money things. But for today's video, what I really wanted to talk about was that lesson that first 2 years of retirement has taught me, and that I've turned around in this last year, in 2026. And that is the danger, the serious danger, in my opinion, of being passive in retirement, of letting external circumstances dictate. And for me, obviously, because of all that was going on in the background, the first 2 years of my retirement were very much out of my control. And I suppose it was only when Mum went to the care home and my relationship came to an end. The irony is, since then, since last Christmas 2025, I have been back in control. And I know sometimes situations that go on outside are beyond our control, but yeah, it's a warning, and it's been a huge wake-up call to me, because I do believe a lot of my life I have been quite passive. I have been buffeted around by external circumstances a lot of the time, and as I have talked about quite a lot on my vlogs, I I've spent most of my adult life either looking for relationships, working on relationships, or getting over said relationships. And yeah, that's extracted a lot of energy. And this time has been a little different. And I am really feeling that 2026 has been me taking back control in a very positive way. And I guess I kind of wanted to talk to you if you are thinking about retiring, planning on retiring, or already retired. I've been doing, since doing this series actually, it's kind of left a lot of room for me to do some self-reflection. And 2026 has been almost one of the best years I can ever remember. I think having the weight of responsibility for my mother taken off me has been a massive relief. There's no two ways about it. I tried looking after her, moving in with her. I thought it was the right thing to do. It was what my mother always said she wanted. And then finally coming to the realisation that that wasn't going to work, and that I was thoroughly going to be absorbed into chaos. And I made a decision that couldn't happen. And a very painful period of my life. And I know there are others of you managing parents. We are that sandwich generation, aren't we? We have children, some of us, we've got elderly parents, and we're kind of caught between. And managing parents with dementia, mental health challenges generally, a massive trauma, in all honesty. It was very difficult. But thank God, yeah, out the other side now. Mum is in a care home where her needs are being met. She's made some lovely friends, and that's like a huge relief. Honestly, I can't tell you what a relief that has been, to finally start being able to live for me, and yeah, breaking free from a relationship that wasn't working for either of us as well. You know, it's not immediately, oh yay, there is a period of adjustment to it. But I went to Budapest in January. I know I keep talking about it, but it was such a wake-up moment. I'd never been away for an extended period like that before, but spending that February or January, the majority of January and a little bit of February, just staying in an apartment and being completely self-directed. There was no agenda, there was no organised tours. I just decided myself where I was going to go, what places I was going to go and visit, just wandering. It felt like such a safe city. Going out at night to dinner on my own to this really fancy restaurant. Yeah, sure, people looked at me a little strange. The waiter said, "Are you on your own?" You know, and yes, oh yes, no problem, no problem. It's obviously the unusual thing. I went out for dinner twice actually. I went to the Hotel Parisi for an evening dinner, which was absolutely spectacular. I'd had quite a budget-friendly holiday, and I decided to splash out. I went for dinner, the most incredible pork, Mangalaga pork, I think it was. Oh, exquisite. The local Hungarian sparkling wine, and just a magical night. Just sitting, wow, at all the surroundings. It's the most incredible hotel. Any of you who have been there or maybe seen it on social media, it is every bit as beautiful as it looks. Going off on a bus to the mountains, to Nomafa, getting out on the bus had left me at the side of the road, and I was like, oh wow, there was nobody around. But sure enough, walked a little further and I found this sort of ski resort, people snowboarding, hikers, and the view down over Budapest was out of this world, and just wandering. It was very freeing. And of all the holidays I'd done, and I also loved a rail holiday that we did, an interrail trip last year. We were together then, and you know, we both adored that, and I think it's the freedom. So yeah, that month in Budapest was incredibly healing, and I think that place was where I met me. The real Julia stepped from the ashes, if you like, of the last horrific few years and made herself known. And yeah, I came home, lovely to see my children, my grandson again, of course. I knew that we had the home to sell and divvy up. I'd obviously moved out, my former husband was there, and we put it on the market. It sold quite quickly, but there's always that delay. It takes ages, doesn't it? But anyway, as you know, or you may not if you haven't seen the video, we completed on that last week, and he's got his own house. I'm staying at mum's till I decide what to do, and as I've already discussed, I'm kind of in this liminal phase. I'm not making any major life decisions, and that, you could argue, is being passive. But as someone wisely has said in the comments of a previous video, sometimes doing nothing is a decision, because it is very easy to be swayed into making quick decisions. I'm off the housing ladder, my money's going to devalue, I should buy a house, go out scouring, buy a house. That would be almost the obvious thing. I've chosen to not take that course. I'm literally standing still till I know what I'm doing. I've done a series of shorts on my ASMR channels over the last few days. I'm doing them every day, talking about, the theme is what if. So every day the video starts with what if, and I'm taking some of my life lessons that I've learned from the last year, the last 12 months really, and I'm doing a sort of a daily short video. I've talked about things like letting intuition guide us instead of overthinking decisions, which has been my tendency in the past, to spend a lot of time trying to think of the logic, thinking my way out of situation. And I have learned that it's better to just go inwards and let intuition, and it's such a hard practice to drown out the loud voices, you know, the voices in our brain that's trying to make us safe. And by being safe, that often means stuck. You know, the overthinking brain would have said, don't go to Budapest on your own, you're not going to be safe. But as it was, it turned out to be the most safe I have probably ever felt. Yeah, so standing still at the moment is an active decision, I guess, to not rush. By being, so what I was talking about, a lesson of not being passive, is I'm really learning to not let external situations, and especially other people, dictate my life. Again, I think the way I was brought up was very much, probably a lot of us brought up in the same era, was very much within social norms. Study hard in school, get your O-levels. As it happens, I actually did quite enjoy school, and I enjoyed studying. Not so much A-levels. I pretty much flunked my A-levels because I'd made up my mind I wanted to be a nurse. So A-levels, in those days you didn't need A-levels, you could just go straight in nursing at the age of 18. Yeah, so getting married young, that was our decision as a couple. I'd been brought up very, dare I say, strictly. I think my mother had pretty much a Victorian upbringing, and I wasn't allowed to live with my boyfriend. I wasn't allowed to go on holidays. I was a nurse, student nurse, We were both earning, but my mother would not let us go on holidays together. We wanted to go to Tenerife. And it quickly became clear that if we wanted to progress our relationship, we were just going to have to get married. So that's what we did. And I quickly grew up. Yeah, just a lot of pressure to follow the norms, to not upset people, to be a good girl. And I've talked before about the people-pleasing aspect of it. I wonder, probably quite a lot of you, from the comments I read from some of you, I suspect some of you have had similar experiences. And I actually have no regrets about that first marriage, or any of them actually. My son came from that first marriage, my daughter from the second. But that first marriage, crazy as it seemed, getting married at, well, I was a month off being 20. Did a lot of growing up during that period, learned to become an adult, because I think if I hadn't have got married, I actually think I would have been very much dictated to in life by other people's expectations. I really fought against it. Even though I was married, some people still had expectations on me. When I wanted to leave nursing and go into sales, there was a big no, 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 and I just did it anyway. So in a way, I was quite rebellious, and I'm glad I was. So there's been periods of my life where I've been quite passive, I guess. Other times I've been a bit of a rebel. But yeah, for retirement, my advice would be to, like, if you can't decide the course of your life at the age you are when you retire, then when are you going to be able to? I think there's other demands when you're at the retired age. We talked about parents, elderly parents, and children. You know, we've all got children maybe of different ages, but a lot of us want to feel we want to be around to support children, grandchildren, etc. A lot of people look after grandchildren, for children to work, pay the bills. You know, it's a really a crazy world that we're living in at the moment, where I know young people are, you know, struggling to pay bills, and both people working. Absolutely crazy situation. So yeah, there are always demands on our time, whether we're retired or not. I can see that myself. But I think, as I've touched on in other videos that I've done, I think you have got to start putting yourself first, very much so. Because how awful would it be to get to the end of your life? Again, it is morbid, but you know, you've only got to look at the books I've talked about, the 5 regrets of the dying, and when you get to retirement age, let's be honest, you do start thinking, and well, at least that's what I think about old age. Living a life well lived is a priority for me, and sometimes that does mean putting your own needs and wants first. And as I say, 2026 has been a year for me where I have, probably for the first time in my life, have been able to do that. And I think that's why this year has been so good, because I have been in charge of my own destiny. Since I had a camper van, I think, gosh, when would it have been? 11 years ago, 12 years ago maybe. My desire to have the van was the freedom aspect, to go off. And even though I was in a relationship, I still like to go off on my own and go to places on my own. And now this year I've been able to do that more freely, because previously it would have been a short trip, because I always had to come back, well, because I was married, but also my mother's needs very much dictated, and that was before the dementia really took over. You know, my mother never liked me being away, so it was always very much dictated on short trips and having to get back to not have my mother worrying. And this year, like I've said, I've just had so much freedom. And when I'm not doing the camper van trips, another thing really in the last week, I guess, I was conscious that making these videos, I was sitting with the same background behind me. And some people said, oh, I used to like your travel videos. And whilst I don't particularly want to go back to creating van content or travel content all the time, I can see that the places I go is quite interesting. But I'm not in the camper van this week, and I thought, well, maybe I can do some videos out and about. That was the driver for me going out and about, was to do some filming in different places. But actually what I realised is just walking from home, coming to these lovely places, is therapy as well, because you pass people, pass the time of day, go out and explore places like Coity Castle that I'd never been inside before. Discovering this little recreation fields, never been here before. And yeah, just really enjoying being out and about, so thank you. The suggestion of not having the same background, it's kind of got me out and about, which, yeah, I'm really enjoying. I might have lost the purpose of the video. I was starting to talk about not being passive, and I've waffled on a little bit, I think. But I know some of you like sitting down and listening to me chat and waffle, so maybe this video is more for the people who like that. I do want to come back and do some more financial budgeting videos. I know a lot of people love seeing behind the curtain of people's spends, and I will do one on my food, what I buy for food and what I eat as somebody single. I will do a video of that one this week, I think. But yeah, I wonder if any of you got learns that you're learning from other people's retirement, maybe living your own retirements, maybe mistakes you've made in the past that you want to make a change now you're in your retirement. It's such an exciting time, I think, not working, or at least not having a boss, which was always my goal. I enjoy making these videos because I treat it like work in a good way. Because I think if I didn't have the creation side, which I've had since I retired, I'm taking it more seriously now. But if I didn't have that, I think it would be very easy for me to just drift, be very passive, sit at home. And I've noticed when I do that at my mother's, when I don't have a walk planned like today, I can just sit, do washing, tidy, look around and think, oh, I really need to paint that wall. Oh, I really need to go and sort that cupboard out. And I just really can't be bothered. And before I know it, the day's gone. I feel bad that I haven't tackled the things I wanted to do. And you just end up in that cycle of, being annoyed with yourself. So I think just starting the day with a plan, and the plan is to go out, make a video, and while I'm out, get some fresh air, see some new things. And that's really helping me. I know there's a lot of people, I do hear some people saying, I don't want to retire, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I just honestly find that unbelievable, that someone would be bored. I've always been someone who relishes my own company and fiddling. It's funny, when I was a kid, summer holidays, I loved nothing more than disappear into my bedroom or going out in the garden and playing with make-believes. Like I had a couple of Cindy dolls, but I used to make dresses for them out of scraps of material. And well, I would just while away hours doing that. And my mother often used to stomp up the stairs. What are you doing? Are you fiddling? Oh, that word fiddling. Are you fiddling? In other words, are you wasting time, not doing anything productive? So my mother's idea of productivity was sitting down, getting me to do maths exercises or writing a story. And don't get me wrong, that probably helped with my exams, but I always had that guilt for fiddling. So now in retirement, I absolutely love to fiddle. I don't know whether it's clouding over and it's going to start raining, you know. I think I better make tracks. I was going to go to the pub. There's a beautiful pub just across the road. I thought maybe I could have a little pint before walking home, but maybe I better just get home and edit this. Anyway, hope you're all well. Bit of a rambly sit down and chat video today. Hope you like it. See you on the next one.